Let me show you mathematically how it is. Elasticity of demand is the percentage change in the quantity demanded, percentage change quantity, divided by the percentage change in the price. What that gives you is just a raw number. There's no units. It's not like it's minivans per week per $1,000, right? It's not like it's Sing beer per day per bot. It's just a pure number, because percentages are measuring the change divided by the absolute value, and so the units all cancel. The range of this is from 0, which is I double the price and people still buy the same amount, right? Which is ridiculously insensitive or extremely insensitive to price, to minus infinity, which is when you raise the price by a fraction of a bot, and the quantity changes minus 100%. So a very giant change divided by a tiny price change is near infinite, whereas a lack of change divided by a huge price change is 0, or by any price change, 0. In between, of course, is -1. -1, the change in my price as a percentage is exactly offset by the change in the quantity. So I lower the price by 5%, my sales go up by 5% at a -1 elasticity. It might be that you raise the price by 17% and you lose 17% of your customers. They're exactly offsetting. Between 0 and -1 is what we call inelastic demand. And between -1 and minus infinity is what we call elastic demand. Examples again, gasoline, cigarettes, heroin, things with no close substitutes. Elastic is any brand. If you think about a car, the demand for a car is fairly close, but it's just barely inelastic, and this is in the US. But the demand for a particular type of car is very elastic. There's not as many substitutes for a car as there are for a Buick. We take this notion of price elasticity that we're using for demand, and we can extend it into a number of different directions. You can talk about supply elasticity. How do we change the quantity supplied as the price changes? You can also talk about how other factors influence the quantity demanded. For instance, income. If my income goes up, how does that affect my interest in buying Sing beer, Hawaiian shirts, vacations to exotic destinations? So usually when your income increases, the quantity that you buy increases. Almost everything. Normally that's the case, where you've got more money, so you buy more stuff. It's not always true. It's possible sometimes the income elasticity is negative, which seems kind of confusing. If you have more money, you should buy more stuff. But if you think about the products where this is true, then it becomes more, I think, sensible. For instance, when your income increases, you don't buy two T-shirts at Kmart. You shop at Kmart less, or Walmart, you shop there less. You shop at the Gap or Banana Republic or the Limited or some fancy schmancy place. So income elasticity is negative for goods where you're replacing a cheap one with a more expensive one. So if your income goes up, you don't buy more Leo beer. You buy less Leo beer because you buy Sing beer. When your income goes up, you don't buy more bus tickets. You take the bus less because you take a taxi or you buy a car. When your income increases, you don't buy two really cheap pair of shoes, you buy fewer cheap pairs of shoes and you buy more fancy shoes. So items that you have a better version of them often have a negative income elasticity, right? You don't eat at McDonald's more often as your income goes up. You eat there less often. Instead, you eat somewhere with a menu that's not on a fluorescent screen above your head. Okay, so we can measure income elasticity. We can measure price elasticity. We have a more interesting one sometimes is the price of something else. There's a notion of a cross-price elasticity. When the price of Pepsi goes up, how does that affect the quantity of Coca-Cola demanded? We can measure the substitutability of two products by measuring their cross-price elasticity. Right? When they raise the price of a Cadillac, how does that affect the quantity of a Lexus? How does that affect the quantity of a cheap Ford car? So they're both substitutes, but another luxury car like a Lexus is a closer substitute, and so we would expect that the cross-price elasticity would be greater. If you happen to have a menu of things that you're selling, not just one product, but a whole bunch of things, then cross-price elasticity is very helpful to you when it comes to pricing. We can measure this. If you have grocery store data, you can see how people respond to price changes. We measure all these elasticities, and we can see what goods you buy instead, and how much and what it takes to switch your brand. So if I buy a Ben & Jerry's ice cream every week and then they raise the price by $1, maybe I still buy it. If they raise the price by $1.50, then I don't buy it. But they also know that I buy Haagen-Dazs ice cream instead, right? So they can measure at an individual level my cross-price elasticity. Then they can know for everyone who shops at that store the set of cross-price elasticities. And then they can actually go out and set smarter prices for all their brands of ice cream based on maximizing the collective profits from the whole set of things. And then you can say, well, ice cream is a substitute to other desserts. So how does the change in the price of ice cream affect the sales of cakes or cupcakes or frozen popsicles? So you can measure all of these and use a more enlightened pricing policy. And it all comes down to this idea of sensitivity. How does it affect my own sales, and how does it affect the sales of substitute and complementary products? If you're a restaurant and you raise the price of the appetizers, maybe you sell fewer appetizers, but does that mean people buy more salad, that they buy more entrees, they buy more soup? If you raise the price of Coca-Cola, does that mean people just drink water, or does it mean they switch to a cocktail instead? Right? So I don't know, but I can measure these things, and then I can figure out how my customers react to the change in the price of one thing, not just for substitutes, but for complements. Right? Because when I go to Burger King, I don't go to Burger King. I might buy a burger and a fry and a drink. But if you raise the price of one, maybe I don't go anymore because now my whole meal has gotten more expensive. All right, so this is the idea of elasticity, and we can measure it in a practical real-world way with enough data, which is pretty common these days. And we can also put it to work when you think about pricing.